Hi everyone, welcome to day 27. We're on day 27 of our FCHS Fitness Challenge. See, the longer it goes on, the more I forget the days that we're on. But we're towards the end, I know that. We only have one more video tomorrow, and then we're gonna go back to our weekly videos posted every Monday. But before we get to that point, I kind of wanted to introduce something new, maybe to some of you, maybe not to all of you, that we really haven't talked about before. And it kind of goes into the category of our flexibility and mobility. It's essentially just a self-massage kind of technique. If you have heard of it, they call it the self-myofascial release, which is just a fancy way of saying self-massage, right? To kind of loosen up some of those tight tissues. So that can be a really great way to help reduce things like soreness, to kind of help with our muscle inflammation when we do a hard strength training workout, or if we walk really far, we kind of boost up the intensity, we're sore the next day. They can kind of help us reduce the inflammation that's associated with that muscle recovery, to help enhance that recovery process, make it go a little faster, just get blood flow into that area. It also helps with our muscle length, okay? So that's one reason why we do our stretching and our other mobility exercises, to kind of open up some joints, lengthen those muscles, because the more that that's working appropriately, the better we'll feel overall. Proper stretching, proper flexibility and mobility can really help us reduce a lot of chronic pain a lot of the times. And we don't even realize it. We just kind of get stuck in our routines. We might have some overuse problems. We might be tight from stress, from just sitting all day, from driving too much. Maybe we do have to carry a lot of heavy things throughout the day, and those muscles get really, really tight. And our techniques that I'll show you today can kind of help reduce some of that, re-lengthen those muscles, get rid of some of those knots that we just have all the time these days. It also can help you relax, right? When we go get a nice massage from a licensed therapist, it's usually a really relaxing endeavor, all right? Because it's kind of reducing that muscle tightness. The muscle tightness tells our brain something bad is about to happen and we need to be prepared to run or to fight the lion. So if we can reduce that muscle tension, it kind of talks to the brain and we just relax and calm down. So there's ways to do that without spending a fortune, without making an appointment, without leaving your house, right? We can do it ourselves. And I think these are things a lot of people see, you know, maybe on Amazon or at the gym if you go to a gym, and we kind of look at them and go, what on earth is that? So I'm hoping this video can kind of help some of you if you've seen one of these before or seen someone on one, wondering what it does, and maybe giving it a shot if you do have access to one. All right, so that is my first tip. If you do belong to a gym or some kind of health club, they often have them at the facility, so you can use them with your membership, okay? There's no reason to go out and buy one. I'm not trying to endorse any specific products. I just want you to know, to have the knowledge and the power to use one of these if you have one or you're kind of exposed to them throughout, all right? So we're gonna start first with, this is called a half roller, all right? So I usually like this for people that haven't necessarily used a foam roller before, all right? Because it has a nice solid base here so that when you put it on the ground, it doesn't move like these two will, okay? So when we use our other kinds of foam rollers, there is a strength component to it, which I'll talk more about when I get to that one. But this can be nice just to kind of get the benefits of our myofascial release without potentially hurting ourselves in a different way. So I tend to use this one more for knots on my lower back. You can use it in other areas, okay? But for sake of time, I'm really just gonna show you one thing with each little method here. So you would lay it, I usually lay it horizontal. If you're gonna do any kind of foam rolling with your back, really important that the roller is longer than that area, okay? So if I'm doing my low back right now, I want this foam roller to be past my back on both sides. I want it to fully support my back, all right? So this little guy, if I was using this, it wouldn't take up my whole back and it would actually hurt me more than help me, all right? So I will show you that in a little bit. All right, so for this one, I usually just prop up, whoop, and then I fall down, okay? Which you want to come slowly down. You don't want to fall like I did. And you just kind of settle in on it, all right? This is also a nice one to use on the shoulders. But if I'm using it on my low back, I'll just also kind of add a windshield wiper component with the legs. And then when I feel like a tight spot or a tense spot, I stop and hold it for about 20 to 30 seconds. And that pressure helps to break up that knot a little bit. And that makes us feel more flexible and mobile once we get back on there. So this can also be a great way to warm up for exercise too. Okay, because it helps us get rid of some of that muscle tension. Sometimes it can be hard to static stretch before a workout because we're not warm yet and we have all these knots, so we're not as flexible. So this can be a nice way to kind of break some of that up. All right, so that's what I use this one for normally. But it's a nice one to use on the upper body as well. Okay, it really just helps to make some of those knots feel a little bit better. All right, so now I'm gonna get to these two guys. You guys can laugh at how many foam rollers I have. My friends give me them for Christmas. That's how often I have to use these. So the color of the foam roller does usually reflect how dense the foam roller is, because the more dense it is, the more pressure it's gonna give you. Okay, so I like the ones right in the middle. Mine are usually blue or red. White tends to be the softest, black tends to be the hardest. All right, but you always want to check if you do purchase one for yourself to make sure. Always better to start with the softer ones, all right? Like anything else in exercise, we build up to the harder kind of ones, okay? I don't know what color purple is, but it feels pretty hard, so I'm gonna say it's closer to the black. All right, so you don't always want to go off aesthetics and make sure you know what the density is there. Okay, so this guy, they make ones that are longer than this. Okay, they do have foam rollers that are about this length. I usually travel with mine, so I tend to get the shorter ones. All right, but sometimes the shorter ones do apply a little more pressure just because there's less of that tube. So just buy one that works for you or get one that works for you. Okay. So for this, I tend to use these more on my legs, but again, you can use them on the upper body. Again, if we're going to use it on the low back, we want to make sure that it fully covers the back. So this one really, this is kind of pushing it for me. I tend to not use this one on my back just because if it jostles, it's not going to be fully over. That's why I have my half roller there, because it's a little longer. So I'll use that one more for my back if that's tight. All right, but this guy, I like this guy for the legs. So there's a lot of good exercises you can do here. All right, I tend to do, let's start with an easier one here. So this is where I'll show the strength component, right? So if I'm gonna foam roll my hamstrings here, usually would prop up, move it over so it's towards the edge here, okay, on this side. Because I'm gonna ground through this foot here, and I don't want it to get caught on this foot. So I'm gonna ground through this foot, I'm gonna lift my hips off the ground so I'm balanced in my hands and this foot, and I'm gonna roll the foot forward on that right side, and then I'm gonna slowly roll it back. And if I find something tight, I'm gonna hold it for that 20 to 30 seconds, and then I'll keep moving. Okay, want to keep breathing, right? That helps us relax. That helps us loosen that muscle tissue as well, all right? But again, this is where our strength comes in, because over time, this is a lot of pressure on my shoulders. There's a core component to keep my hips lifted off the ground, all right? My elbows always lock out when I do this one, so I have to be mindful of keeping a nice bend in my elbow. And if it starts to hurt, if we're working too hard, now we're kind of losing that nice relaxing benefit. So come on down, shake out those hands, the wrists, the shoulders, whatever you need. Don't keep pushing through that just because we're doing like a relaxing stretching activity and you don't think it's supposed to hurt, because it's a lot of upper body strength to do some foam rolling sometimes. The other one where that kind of comes into play is when we would foam roll the front of our legs. All right, because in that one, you're laying on our roller like this. So you're in a plank position, and then you saw yourself back and forth. So this is a really nice one for those of us who are sitting all day long to loosen up those quads, to get a little bit of that hip. But we want to keep that plank position. So even right here, you can see my back's kind of sinking, my stomach is low to the floor because I'm relaxing. I want to be up in that plank. Engage that core because that will help take the pressure off your low back. And then you won't get that back pain, right? The last thing we want to do when we're trying to help our muscles is to hurt our muscles on the other side, okay? So be really mindful of that if this is something that you have or want to use. Okay. So that's 2 exercises with that guy. All right. This one it's the same thing. It's just a smaller one. It's nice and portable. Okay, so this is my travel foam roller. All right, that's my home roller. This is my suitcase one, but it is a little more intense because it's just a thicker one. So sometimes I like to use this on like my calves because they tend to be really, really tight. It takes a lot to get that muscle tissue broken up, but it's, you know, you find what works best for you, or I hate to say it, trial and error. Okay, you don't need to have as many things as I do here. It's just, I run a lot, so I have a lot of fun little equipment for every muscle gets a different type of massage technique. It's not, I don't recommend it for people. If you haven't started running, don't start now. Right, but it's a nice one, but again, my one caveat to these shorter ones, don't use them on your back. If you do try to get actual guidance from a physical therapist or some other like sports medicine, joint medicine professional that can instruct you a little bit better. We never want any of these things to roll directly over bone or joints, okay? So if your knee is sore, we don't want to roll it just on the knee. We're just rolling the muscles outside the knee, okay? That kind of connect into that knee, because that might be contributing to the tightness, but we can't loosen up a knee, okay? We can only work on the muscles surrounding it. So that would be a good thing to note for that. These littler guys here, I just have kind of for show and tell as well. This is called well, it might have a fancier name than that. I call it a stick roller. The brand is the Stick, so I feel like that works, but it might be called different things in different places, right? And this just has little beads on the roller. It works just like a rolling pin you would use in your kitchen. It's nice and like pliable, kind of flexible, so it can be a nicer option to get those stubborn muscles. I'll use this guy on my inner thigh because doing it on the foam roller, you can do it, but it tends to be really awkward and I'm worried I'm gonna hurt myself if I do that. Like, it just puts a lot of pressure on my shoulders. So I'll use this to kind of get in that spot right in here. Okay, and then I can just roll it, and I can actually feel the tissue break up a little bit better with this, I guess because my hands are on the apparatus. So that can be a nice one, and this also can fit real nice if you do travel a lot, and it does take a toll on your hips and your legs. This fits real nice in a suitcase without taking up too much space. The rollers can take up a lot of space, even if you have a smaller one. This guy fits in a nice little corner. Right, so I have a knot right here. I'm just working on that a little bit. Trying to loosen up some of that tissue so I feel a little bit better later. All right, our last options here that I have, I got a nice little spiky massage ball. All right, and that kind of works, well, these two would work really the same way. If you don't have a nice spiky massage ball, if you have a dog, you can usually steal one of their tennis balls. All right, they might not be too happy about it, but you bought it, so you get dibs, I think. Just make sure that they also have one and don't steal yours. All right, they work the same way. So this is another one. I tend to use these guys on like my shoulders, those really stubborn shoulder knots, because they're really easy to just stick between my shoulder blade and the back of a chair or a wall, and I'll just press into it as gently at first, nice and gentle, and as the knot loosens up, I'll go a little bit harder maybe come up and down. All right, so they're nice because they just target that one area, all right, but they're still able to move and do kind of that rolling process. But you don't have to get on the floor and lay on a roller or do all this other stuff. I keep a tennis ball on my desk at work. I think people come in sometimes and wonder why there's a tennis ball on my desk, but it's for my shoulder knot, right? And sometimes I'll just sit on it too, all right? Because I have my cranky hip. I talk about that all the time. And a lot of times it's my piriformis muscle. So I'll just sit on that and I'll just kind of move around until I feel it. It's right there today. And I'll just hang out there. And as that pain kind of goes away, then I just shift back up and take it out. And I wait until it starts to scream at me again, and then I go and put my ball back over there. All right, these are also nice to use on the feet. I think that was in the foot mobility video from a couple days ago. If you have plantar fasciitis, if you just get that annoying kind of tendonitis in the side of the foot, that arch, it's nice to just roll one of these guys on that arch of the foot, the length, and that can kind of help break it up a little bit too. Sometimes that tissue just gets a little too tight, especially if we do a lot of standing or a lot of walking throughout the day. Always good to kind of help mobilize that foot tissue, right? Our feet really do a lot for us. Kind of overlook it sometimes. All right, so I'll just get the inner edge. You can go do the outer edge. So that's the nice thing about these ball shapes, because they move real nice. And you don't have to balance yourself up on your arms or your core. You just have to balance your foot on the ball or your shoulder on the ball. So those are nice and easy. I think they're pretty accessible to most people. Lacrosse balls as well work really well. So if you have, these are good for people that have kids and they just have sports equipment lying around everywhere. You can steal, field hockey balls work, lacrosse balls, tennis balls. In a pinch, I've also used a golf ball. All right, they're really hard though, so just be careful if you use a golf ball. That one can be a little intense because it's small and it's very dense. Right? So sometimes those softer balls work a little bit better. All right, so that is all my fun gizmos for you guys today. If this is something you're all interested in, let me know in our little evaluation survey, because I can do actual videos where we do some foam rolling exercises and techniques for the lower body, the upper body, the back, that kind of thing. But just so you all know what these are when you go in the sporting goods section of Walmart and you're like, what on earth? Because they do kind of look a little weird sometimes. I like this one because it looks just like a dog toy, and the first time I saw it, I was like, why is that in the sporting section? Oh, that's why. All right, so have fun if you try one of those. Please be careful if you try one of those. It will be uncomfortable if it's not something you're used to doing. But if it's really hurting, if you're feeling kind of nauseous from hitting a trigger point, just stop and take a break and just slowly work maybe on stretching that muscle first, trying to loosen it up, just so it's not like a really uncomfortable thing for you to do. It's often a love-hate relationship for people, but we don't want to dread it, okay? We want it to help enhance how our bodies feel. We don't want to get even more tight thinking about the prospect of how painful it will be to foam roll, okay? So it's a nice add-on if it's something you like. And I'll see you all tomorrow. We have our last workout video. It'll be pretty intense, right? When we have a slow day, we tend to have an intense day the next day. So stay tuned for that. We'll have a lot of fun. And I'll see you guys then. Have a good day.